Right, I'm ready. Dollar is coming back. This is the dollar index, weekly, daily, and 4 hour. So if this is something that has given the markets a reprieve recently, a weaker dollar. So if this dollar perks up, that could put a stopper on these markets. So be aware of that. The pound has come under pressure. See from this weekly chart on the left, I've been grinding lower most of the year, apart from this recent bounce. Well, this is one small bounce. Well, it's probably the best bounce of the year, isn't it? This post-truss bounce. But that looks sellable. I was suggesting recently that a mentoree that they should be looking to short 121. That is still looking a possibility. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shoot through the main market proxies, i.e. the dollar and the main indices, and then suggest what we may see this week and into the end of November, and then rush through some key stocks that I like. In the meantime, by all means, punch in what you're looking at, and any questions or alternative views you've got, and I'll come to that and incorporate that as well. Okay, so we've got the dollar potentially picking up. We've got the euro coming off resistance, and the pound, and that is affecting the gold. The gold is priced in dollars in the main. So we had this big couple of weeks. When was it? End of October. First 2 weeks in October was really great for the gold, and now we've done nothing but just drift lower here at the moment. So if we start closing, it looks as if we can see 1700 again. If we subsequently close under 1700, then this may not hold up. So I would have, let's see what happens. It's a short week because we've got Thanksgiving on Thursday, Friday, Black Friday, whatever you want to call it, tends to be very quiet. So it's a pretty short week, and the main data we've got this week is UK borrowing tomorrow, UK services Wednesday, US services Wednesday, and the Fed minutes end of a couple of hours before the markets close on Wednesday. So a quiet week, pretty much almost just over a half a week, really. So in the meantime, what are the indices doing? The Dow was just marginally higher last week. Let's look at the weekly. So we're outside of this downward trend at the moment. So I think we've got the potential to go up to 35k potentially into the end of the year, at which point, that's a critical area resistance, and then we're into a whole new ball game if we do that. If we can't close above this last week's high, we start closing lower, then we're going to come back into this pattern and potentially retrace back down to these levels here. But I think that the weekly is holding up. It was flat last week, but it's a bullish consolidation. I think there is the potential for that to keep going to 35k, so another 1300 pips into that resistance. And of course, that means the Nasdaq is potentially picking up. Okay, Nasdaq's under the cosh. This is not in line with the Dow. This is struggling at the moment. So we've got this big bar on the 10th. If this closes underneath 11.5, then this could potentially peel right back to that boomerang, back down to that breakout area. So as usual, these markets, the Monday close is going to be critical. And quick look at the FTSE. The FTSE is incredibly resilient. You look at this weekly on the on this chart here. We're back into this sell zone, but this, considering the political scene in the UK and the weaker economy that we have in relation, particularly in relation to the US, this is holding up incredibly well. I think it's because I think the main reason is the FTSE 100 tend to trade in dollars. So I think it's a strong dollar that's propped this FTSE up, because you've got so many key players that are profiting from overseas markets, and particularly the strength of the dollar. That's the only thing I can draw from that. Anybody else got any better ideas, then let me know. But all the technicals stack up, even the volume's stacking up on the daily. So let's see if that can keep going. But if that at any time on this weekly closes underneath 73.50, hold on to your hats, because that could drop quite hard. DAX is flat at the moment. That's right up at a key area of resistance up there, this 14,440. So same thing, if that closes lower, particularly under, well, obviously 14K, then that one could be in trouble, or at least suffer a decent pullback. So the oil did a decent drop today, and then an immediate return. So the intraday charts were actually really nice on that one. So yeah, we've fallen right into this grey zone. I had this grey zone on my charts for quite a while. So we got very close to 75. Looked as if we could keep going, and they just did a complete, very quick about turn. But it was a key area down there. So it's a good intraday trade, but there was always likely to be, unless that stayed low and closed lower, there's always the potential for that to kick back, and kick back it has. Okay, so on the weekly chart in the oil, you would we're just at the low, we touched the low of that channel. So typically this time of year, the oil does come off. So just because we've got a bounce today doesn't mean to say that's it, it's over and done with. Typically oil does pull right back into the end of the year and then get going early January normally. So this could still be shortable. If this comes into 85 or into that 88 again and turns around, then that could be a good place to get short. But I think what we've seen is a corrective pattern, because it's potentially a nice double bottom here, but this is a 1, 2, 3 corrective wave off of all this selling. So like I said, if we hold this 80, next stop is 85. If we close above 85, we're going back to 95. But down at the lows here, we became some distanced from the moving averages. It's good on the intraday charts, but let's see what that can do. Right, I did take the lows that I talked about in the room as well today. Not got that much profit showing at the moment, but it's beginning to hold up. I'm going to update you on the commodities, because I think the commodities are brilliant. I think these commodities are going to be fantastic next year again. We already had a great year on commodities. I think these pullbacks are viable. Again, cyclically, they normally drift into the year end. So we're definitely sloppy here. So we've got a great sweep up from 2020, pulled back at the end of the year, and then picked up in the autumn, pulled back into spring, early summer. And now we are, I think we're potentially pushing up. Normally, I would expect that to drop off at the end of the year, but this, at the moment, that doesn't look as if that's happening. The volume is weaker. This is soybeans, by the way. But I'm a great fan of these commodities. There's wheat. Wheat looks better. This is a key support area. There's $8 in the wheat. We were 13 bucks, 13 plus at the highs, 13.50 nearly. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Natural gas, yeah. So we, from that risk low a few weeks back at 52, we look as if we could punch into that 80 mark. If the weather really gets cold, that does normally affect the price of gas. You will get an uptick. Obviously, we've got supply issues with this commodity anyway. Look at that daily chart, that trend line right underneath it. All those touches the trend line. And every time since the 14th of November, since last Monday, the volume's really picked up. So we blasted up here on the 7th, pulled back 3 days later, and all the lows got bought, and now we are channeling up. Right, let's look at the miners. So at the moment on this Pan-African, looking at the daily at the moment, very nice move. We look nice and weak down here. I think this fits, well, I was talking about 16, 17 being viable. We have seen 19, just over 19 last week. I'm expecting that if we can just get above that 20, I think this can let rip, but it's taking its time. Pattern wise, yeah, I still like that pattern. I suspect we're going to see this in all the miners. So we started to hold the bottom of the funnel on October 20th. We closed above, or we sat on the trend line November 3rd, peaked, or this short-term peak on Friday 11th. And now we look as if we're heading back to the peak, but maybe this time we can go back to 20 plus. The volume is picking up, so I'm liking it. Griffin, I saw a broker buy a recommendation on this one today. They are looking for, I've got the price somewhere. Let me just go and grab it. Yeah, they're looking for 150 on this. Brokers reckon it can get back up to these Feb 21 highs. I'm not bothered what brokers think. All I'm bothered about is what the chart's doing. The volume does not suggest this is a good stock. I'm not in this anyway, FYI. Goes ex-dividend on the 1st, right? Thanks. So I would actually steer clear of that, despite what the brokers said. Hochschild, so that's had a run from 15 to 70 plus. I think any push into, well, if you see 55, great. Otherwise, you may, if it dips to 60, I would personally take it. Otherwise, stay away. But it looks as if that is all right. Sentiment. Yeah, so this has had a really nice push off of 72. We've seen 107. And this pullback, and this has got volume as well. So sentiment and Pan-African. What's the volume like on this one? Yeah, we saw some okay volume on this Hochschild today, but we did not see volume on that Griffin. Although it is a higher close, but it's a higher close on lower volume, so be careful. Let's move on to basic commodities. Gem diamonds. Yeah, this is starting to pick up on volume. So we're down there at 28. I think this is a good stock. We've had a big sweep up there, middle of 21. Big sweep up in this spring. Just manage your risk. If you are gonna trade this one, obviously be very wary of where you put your stop. Yeah, don't overstretch yourself. Don't overdo it. All the usual risks parameters, but I think it's a good speculative stock. Sorry, I couldn't pick the word up. It's a good speculative stock, right? Couple of brokers I always like going over. I do think this Man Group is good on pullbacks here. Volume is all right, not brilliant, but it's had a good run this year, and I think it might even go back to those highs. If I'm right about commodities, this could fly next year. This one and TP ICAP. This is consolidating at 170, 173 after a move into 207, and the volumes are improving. It is possible that might do a deeper pullback to 150. Who knows? It might even go any further. All I'm doing is giving you my the advantage of my experience. I'm not telling you exactly where these stocks may or may not go because I don't know where they're going to go. Glencore looks if we can see 48, 480. Elementis Chemicals Company is looking good. This did a deeper pullback than I expected. Last time I talked about it, it went on a run from 97 to 120. This is getting going now. The volumes are really picking up. That was a big day on the 8th. We pulled back into that big day, which is common at 98. So you might see a pound again. You'd have to have a stop under 88 to see if that can get to 130 plus. Rio, no, that's gone. Bear with me. Right, sorry, just moving a stop up. Where was I? Well, that oil's 80.15 at the moment. Let's look at energy. So I'm going to be doing a big session on preparation for next year soon. And I'm going to be talking about what I think are the key issues to do with the end of this year and the beginning of next. And then I'm going to talk about how I'm going to potentially help you manage this in much more greater detail than I normally do. And I'll talk about what I'm going to be doing, what I'm looking at, what I'm targeting, and where I think the market's going to be the middle of next year and where I think they're going to be the end of next year. But I'll talk to you about that very soon. Right, in the meantime, let's look at energy. I'm still in this Petrofact. So Petrofact dipped right into 92.80, went on a run to 126. as I keep saying every week I look at this, I just like the weekly on this, but it does need to get going. If we do a lower high here, this could, who knows, it could even break under the 90, 92. It's a bit of a slug because we've been doing this for over 2 years now, and we have one big spike in autumn last year, and the volumes have been better this recently. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I think that's a buy at 110 if you see it, with a stop under £1 to see if that can work. Tallow, yeah, see that's maybe it's going to pick up after the markets see the bounce in the oil, assuming the oil stays up there. It looks to me as if it wants to come and see 39.40 again at the moment. If it does, I think that's a good opportunity. Right, what else do I like? GKP. No, that weekly is looking too high. Looks as if that wants to come lower. The volume suggests it's lower as well. Let's look at BP and Shell anyway. Yeah, coming off after the budget last week. Right, let's look at, is Cecil in the room? Let's have a look. Cecil is in the room. Are you still in this FLR, Cecil? Because this is looking as if we could see 36 if that holds. You know, at the moment, okay, it's gapped up and just sitting in that gap range. So I don't blame you. It looks to me as if that would see, I would have thought we could see 31.30 again on this 18th April high. It might, if it dips back further, closer to 30.50 or 30, then I think that's a buy. Now, with a gap like this, if it starts to close above the gap, then the chances of that dropping is potentially is a lot lower. If we start closing above 34, I think that can just carry on. All right, now there's no other any other energy stocks you guys like. Let's have a look at my US energy list is a little bit out of date. I will update that. Let's look at this is an oil stock. It's doing all right. Let's just pull back to support there today. Right, let's move on. Basic materials. No, pretty much I've covered that one. So I covered miners. Let's have a look at retail. Let's look at completely the other end of the cycle now. Let's look at what these UK retailers are doing, which is vastly different. Okay, so this has continued to pick up. It was just hitting a lot of weekly resistance. You can see September 233 was a problem based on that drop zone. It's hitting a drop zone. To cut long story short, it's hitting a drop zone up there at 233, but the volumes are higher, so it looks as if that could go further. Anybody in these stocks, Tesco's and Sainsbury's and so on? Anybody in these? So they picked up well. They've all had volume, picked up on volume off of these lows. Even Card Factory's had a push higher. Look at this. On volume as well. A lot of volumes go into that. I would happily short the heck out of that if that starts to get up to 80 plus and falter. But in the meantime, I am stepping aside. Yeah, shoe's gone right into the resistance area and gap down. Good bear rating stock. Anybody interested in bear rating, I would offer out 190 with a stop above £2 on that one. Like that is a absolute cherry target for bear rating in my book. They're a sector that's under a lot of pressure. And bricks and mortar. Right, EasyJet looks higher. My partner flew back on EasyJet today. Planes are being pretty busy. That looks as if I can see 450. I don't like airlines at the moment, but that does look as if that's higher. International, British Airways, etc. Same pattern. These pullbacks appear to be bought. Right, the real, yeah, look at this. Boo has come into 57 and dropped right back under 40. So this is a good branded online retailer, really, really struggling. Hence the reason why I think bear ratings stocks like Shoe are a good option. Royal Mail Group. I'm class. It's a key service, isn't it? A good proxy stock in the UK, as it's the main carrier. I think this 225, 228 is potentially bought if you're interested. It's not for me, but that looks as if that could get back to £3. Trouble is, they're strike ridden, aren't they? There's more strikes coming up, so that could fall back any time. Look at a couple more. Smiths, W. Smiths. That's done okay, but it's struggling at resistance. And Primark, ABF, is coming off of resistance as well. Right. What stocks, if any, do you want me to look at? I still, while you're answering that question, I still like IQE, a chip producer, wafer chip producer. BT, I still think BT is a good option. Seeing some volume. I think 124 for an organization that's owns OpenReach. I think that is, in other words, UK internet infrastructure. I think that is always a potential breakout. Vodafone come under a lot of pressure. Seeing some decent volume here. Maybe that's short covering, but it's certainly not closing above £1. All the time it's down there under the pound. That could go down further. Barclays, not looked at banks. Similar patterns to we saw in some of the other. Well, this looks very similar to Sainsbury's and Tesco's. Holding up, got the potential to go higher. Volumes have been all right recently, but not brilliant. QQ, I really like this QQ. I think it's. I'm gonna get back into this QQ again. It's not a great chart. I'm gonna have to be patient with this. It can't close above this average, and that average is, that's only actually a 10-day. I normally use a 20-day, but for some reason I put 10 on this. I'm going to wait because I'm going to stalk this stock and see if we can close above that 350. Otherwise, we might dip further back towards the £3 mark. Volumes appear to be sustained. No, no, I take that back. They've fallen off overall recently. I am in VOD, yeah. Um, Mainly because in this environment, I am happy to sit in potential cash cows. In other words, companies that consumers really need to pay for as a necessity, as opposed to a not necessity, a luxury. What else? Let's look at. I'm going to draw this to a close because I'm not. Let me look at my other stocks. There's a couple of stocks I earmarked. Right. I've not checked this one, so bear with me. I'll check it with you. Yeah, Drax. So this has been as high as 825. Were that to dip back to 570, I would consider buying that because I think ultimately this could go back to 8 and potentially more, given the environment, the industry it's in. Dark. Are you in dark, Andy? Yes, right. That is getting interesting. Seeing a pickup in volume. Well, I think that's worth a shot. I just would, usual thing, try and get a decent price. Don't get your stop too far away, because if that gets under 335, that is likely to go lower. You don't have to have a stop that far away at all. You could go under 350. Try and bid on. Might be worth trying to bid on 350. You never know. Anyway, what else? The other one, SEE. I want to look at SEE because I saw that come up on a scan. Yeah, very speculative stock. The volume's not great, so I wouldn't suggest you get into that. Right, I'm just looking around, looking at some US stocks. And we've got Cecil. You're in Florida, right? I think, from memory. Let's call North Carolina. Right. Okay, got that wrong. Let's just look at some bellwethers in the US. Goldman's. That's a really sweet move. I mean, if you look at this weekly chart, great pullback. You might still see 35.80. Let's just talk about the annual cycle. Normally does well into Thanksgiving, and then typically does do well into the back end of the year after Thanksgiving. So we've got Thanksgiving Thursday. So at the moment, all the indications are the market can do that. As we speak, the FTSE is still trickling up, and certainly the Nasdaq has come off that low I suggested. So if that normal cycle continues, that normally drags Europe up with it, which is what we're seeing at the moment. So if you look at that, so Goldman's is a buy at 35, 36. Not sure it pulled back that far. But Disney's got its old CEO back. Look at the volumes. The market likes that news. It's got an issue with its profit margins. So they've dragged its previous chief exec back in to solve it. You got huge volume on that Disney. If we close up here at 97.50, I think that is worth a shot. That's definitely worth a shot on that volume. Obviously, we'd have to start closing above the 100 mark, but that could be one to buy and hold into 13 or 14. And what else was I going to show you? Let's look at a couple of key stocks. Looking at some speculative. See, the speculative stuff, so-called disruptive technology, is still not great. Twilio, yeah, no, let's look at some proper ones. There's an awful lot of red on the charts. Look at Uber. Uber looks as if it needs to come back to that 10th support. Not a great stock. If you get a pullback to 27, that might go to 35. I mean, the weekly is shaping up. I'm hesitating because the chart is somewhat scrappy and the volumes are not consistent. So it doesn't tick enough boxes. Roku. So look at NVIDIA. And then I'm going to disappear unless you've got anything else. I'll just go through my list in a second, make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, so NVIDIA had a good push off this 114. Went as high as 117. So only pull back into this big breakup. I think that could boomerang back to that 10th November lows, unless we start closing above this 160. Good product, good company. It just looks as if that needs a pullback to get that going again. Right. And MU, chipmaker MU. Same story, been on a run, consolidating. Volumes are short-term pulled off, but looks all right. Anything else I'm interested in? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at your CCJ. So hit resistance and that. CCJ, uranium producer, that's nestled right to a key area of support. If that starts closing above 24, I think that could go back up to 30, maybe. FCX, been on a decent run up there at 39 hit resistance. That's pulling back. Right, that's me done. Unless you've got anything else you want to look at, I'm going to leave it there. Indices, US indices are still picking up and looking higher. Let's have a look before we go. So we've got 2 hours 20 left in the US market. That oil's really picked up above 80. And so I bought the low in this spiders, S&Ps. You can see all this key support here from the 28th October highs. Just looking for that. I'm expecting that to get back into at least 4,100, unless that doesn't about turn anytime soon. Dow. Is all right. Very, very shallow range last week. So with a quiet week, who knows, it may do the same again. The Nasdaq has picked up some, but it's got it all to do. Apart from that big push on the 10th, it's done nothing since that big push on the 10th. So that normally means to me it needs a deeper fallback. If the buyers aren't stepping in, that normally you would normally expect to see a deeper pullback. Right, thanks for joining me, guys. Watch out for information about up and coming major reviews and plans for next year. But these markets look as if they are happy right now. Let's see if that carries on and see what happens into Thanksgiving and outside the other end. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.